The Night Before My Grandpa's Death by username Stars Landing. Now, this story happened when I was only 10. It was late May or early July, right before school got out. I don't exactly remember the exact month anymore, but it was around that time. My grandpa, who I called Poppy, so I will from here on out now call him Poppy, he was older, nearly 91, and was now fading away, is as best as I could describe it. My grandma, God bless her, made the office near the master bedroom into a makeshift hospital room. You see, she had been a nurse for most of her life, and even had an actual hospital bed. Now, my grandparents lived in a somewhat large room in North Carolina. They lived in a one-story house that had a screened sunroof that you had to walk down the steps to get to. There were 2 bedrooms on the opposite side of the house, a guest and master bedroom, and then a study makeshift hospital room at the end of the hallway. However, what is important to this story is the screened-in porch. It faced the driveway and onto the neighbour's front yard. I remember that you could sit out there in the right seat and see all angles of my grandparents' front porch, driveway, the neighbour's yard, and the street. It's funny, but God, I loved that house. However, when I saw my Poppy had begun to fade away, my dad's family all flocked down to North Carolina to see him. Yeah, you see, my parents were divorced. Everyone wanted to see him, in what we hoped wouldn't be his final days. Now, when I was 10, I had an extreme love of ghosts, urban legends, rituals, that sort of thing. Things that I thought may have scared my Christian southern grandparents. However, I approached my grandma one of these days we were there and asked her, and I remember this part clearly, "Grandma, has Poppy spoke of seeing ghosts?" My grandma nodded and began to speak. Yes, he said he was having dreams of seeing his mother, father, older brother, all beckoning for him, even his old yellow boat that he owned. Now, this surprised me. I didn't think she would say, well, anything. However, it did make the house feel eerier to me from then on, like something was nearby, and I hated it. I chose to stay with my grandma. Instead of staying at the hotel with my stepmom and dad, I wanted to help my grandma, since I couldn't imagine the toll this had on her. We had been sleeping in the guest room when Poppy was wailing in his sleep. My grandma and this other lady who was there helping went to check in on him. Now awake, my grandma told me to go look for her cat, Mr. O. Mr. O was an adorable indoor-outdoor cat, and he didn't come in last night. So I obviously agreed and walked down to the hallway and saw the time. 4:01 a.m. I oddly felt relieved seeing that. I kept walking and slowly, still half awake, made my way to the screened-in porch. I called for Mr. O several times, mainly the typical ways you would call a cat. "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty!" And also, "Mr. O!" However, it usually took some time for him to show up, but this time, he darted in via the rip in the screen. It was odd, to say the least, until I looked up and saw what made my blood go cold. Just there, in the neighbour's front yard, standing behind a bush of all things, was a man. I couldn't make out what he looked like due to the street lamp being behind him, blocking out most of his features. I suddenly felt the cold, warm air turn icy cold. Perhaps that was me panicking, perhaps not. I looked at this person for a few seconds, feeling like I needed to bolt inside and turn and run back to the guest room, but I just stood there. I took in every detail of this man. He was tall and thin. He had what looked like a fedora, and a bushy beard. From what I could make out, if he was wearing clothes, they were stuck to his body. I could only assume that we were staring at one another. After a few seconds, I closed my eyes and went, "Go away, go away, go away," I thought to myself. When I opened my eyes, he was gone. I rushed back inside in a panic, shutting the door and rushing to my grandma, explaining what I had just seen. She assured me it was nothing, and weirdly, I did go back to sleep a while later. My grandpa died a few days later.